Once again from Grts, this is the news at 10, and first we begin with the headlines. Deputies adopted a supplementary appropriation bill amounting to $300 million meant to service outstanding international contributions and refurbishment of the Gambian Chancery in London. The Ministry of Education and partners gathered for another bi-monthly sectoral meeting to discuss policy implementation, especially at school level. South African President Jacob Zuma urges his country people to pray for iconic liberation figure Nelson Mandela, whose condition, according to doctors, remains critical. And confusion rages over the whereabouts of American fugitive Edward Snowden as furious Washington officials demand his expulsion from Russia. This and other stories coming ahead in the news. I am Fatou Kamara. Well, thank you very much for joining us. Deputies at the National Assembly have ratified a loan agreement of $17 million with Export-Import Bank of India to finance unfinished works on the new National Assembly building. The second meeting of the National Assembly began with the adoption of the supplementary appropriation bill amounting to $300 million. The fund is meant to service outstanding international contributions, refurbishment of the Gambian Chancery in London, and the maintenance of internal security. Ibrahim Jatta reports.
Exim Bank will pay the seller. We are the buyers. Gambia is the buyer. From our account, direct to the seller. And we will notify when that is done. Now, if we happen to have any problem with the seller, the Gambia happens to have any problem with the seller, we are held liable. That is from the layman's perspective.
It's the fundamental argument underlying a $17 million loan from Exim Bank meant to finance unfinished works of the new National Assembly building.
This additional funding amounted to US $16.9 million. My ministry engaged with intense negotiations with the government of India and Exim Bank with a view to mobilizing these required funds under the same terms and conditions of the initial loan.
All over the world, Honorable Speaker, this institution, that's the National Assembly, its type operations attest to the type of government you have. As was said, the initial cost was approximately $10 million. We are now seeking additional 16.8, about 17 million, meaning we look forward to a complex, National Assembly complex, worth 27 million US dollars, not $27 million.
The loan agreement sealed on October 2012 is rated by deputies as a non-controversial deal, which aims to provide state-of-the-art facilities and services for the Gambian legislature and the people they vow to serve.
The government of the day, by coming up with this project, is really working on towards democracy and good governance.
Good governance and cautious focus on national revenue had surpassing impact on the approved national budget, calling for a 2013 supplementary appropriation bill of $300 million meant to finance health security and diplomatic representations.
To improve revenue administration, the operational requirements of the Revenue Authority will need to be adjusted in order to help improve compliance and revenue collection. Also, we have received information that our Chancery building in London is in a deplorable condition and needs urgent reconstruction. As we speak, the High Commission is using a residential area to conduct business of the government, and this temporary permit that has been given for that purpose is coming to expire.
With government's net borrowing valued at $611 million and 1.8% of GDP, it is hoped that government will reduce net borrowing to 0.5% of GDP in order to preserve a stable national budget, constantly overlooked by health and other prominent sectors. Ibrahim Jatta, Grts.
Now, officials of the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education and partners have gathered for the bi-monthly meeting to discuss policy implementation, especially at school level. The latest round of the Coordination Committee meeting is underway at the Region 1 Directorate in Kanifing. Louis Mendy has details.
Officials of the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education, principals of schools, and in-country partners supporting education have begun a 5-day dialogue on the attainment of the country's education motto, which hinges on access, relevance, and quality. The bi-monthly exercise called the Coordinating Committee Meeting, in short the CCM, is the monitoring instrument of the ministry in relation to policy implementation, especially at regional and school levels.
We want to make sure that every child goes to school from grade 1 to grade 9, all right, that is from 7 to 15. But we have to see whether that is happening. So anytime we come to CCM, we go to the school, we talk to communities and see how are we succeeding in that. We talk about quality. Now to improve quality, we go to the school, we buy the textbooks. So when we go to the school, we want to see whether the textbooks are in the school. We want to see what impact the teaching and learning has as far as the students are concerned. Now, if we just sit in our offices, we will not know that. That's why we have to go to the school, we talk to parents, we talk to people, and see exactly what is happening on the ground. That is why we see that CCM is very important. It's the most important monitoring mechanism as far as the sector is concerned.
Introduced in 2008, the CCM is credited for accelerating the attainment of the education sector goals.
That first meeting, we visited 10 schools. Only one of them was positive. All the other 9 were negative. It was serious. Right now, from the last CCM, we find that nearly all the schools that we are visiting, there is a lot of improvement. All right, the parents, everybody is now talking about CCM. All right, the communities, everybody knows that CCM is happening. Okay, and we see improvement. If you look at the NAT, the National Assessment Test that is conducted every year for grades 3, 5, and 8, we see improvement. All right, and that's what makes us really happy that things are actually moving in the right direction.
CCM evaluates what happens at regional and school level. Momodu Tangara, the Minister of Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology, said the initiative is a step in the right direction. Mr. Tangara is with the conviction that his ministry can only succeed if the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education succeeds, since it lays the foundation stone for the latter.
That the CCM is a rather good initiative aims at improving on the work of all the sectors involved at the level of the basic and secondary education. I think it's an excellent initiative because it gives us an opportunity to assess, evaluate the work that we are doing. I think in this country people are afraid to be evaluated, to do self-evaluation. But if we want to make any improvement, I think this is a sine qua non condition that we must go through.
Mrs. Ann John Cisse, whose region is playing host to this multi-sectoral convergence, said the platform gives valuable support to her as a regional director, and so she believes it's the same for other education regional directors, school heads and teachers across the country.
Regions have mandates, and their mandate is to coordinate the implementation of all educational programs in the region. So we always look forward to CCM coming to work with us at the level of the region, and we constantly look at implementation. We monitor curriculum development, we monitor curriculum delivery, and we also monitor the school environment. We also monitor quality assurance.
This is the last CCM for the 2013 academic year. Minutes of the previous CCM held in Region 6, as customary, will form part of the discussions at this interface. Also, delegates at this meeting will take a day outside the confines of this hall to visit randomly selected schools within the region to see what they are doing. Recommendations and resolutions reached at, especially after the exercise and all others during the week-long discussions, are expected to be vigorously pursued by regional education directors and heads of schools. The goal is to actualize the attainment of the education MDGs, the purpose for which the CCM was constituted. Louis Mendy, GRTS.